In 1961, Clarence Earl Gideon, a petty thief, was arrested for breaking into a pool room in Panama City, Florida, and stealing a pint of wine and some change from a cigarette machine. At trial, Gideon asked the judge to appoint a lawyer for him since he couldn't afford one himself. The judge refused to appoint him a lawyer because under Florida law, a lawyer could be provided only if the defendant was charged with a capital offense. Gideon ultimately represented himself, was found guilty, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. From prison, Gideon handwrote a petition for habeas corpus to the United States Supreme Court to accept his case as a pauper. His petition was accepted, and the court appointed Abe Fortas to be Gideon's attorney. The Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, agreed to hear the case to resolve the question of whether the right to counsel guaranteed under the Sixth Amendment applies to defendants in state court. A prior decision of the court's Betts v. Brady in 1942 held that the refusal to appoint counsel for an indigent defendant charged with a felony in state court did not necessarily violate the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court granted Gideon's petition for a writ of certiorari in order to determine whether the Betts ruling should be reconsidered. The court unanimously ruled in favor of Gideon, overturning his decision in the Betts case. Justice Hugo L. Black delivered the opinion of the 9-0 majority. The Supreme Court held that the framers of the Constitution placed a high value on the right of the accused to have the means to put up a proper defense, and the state as well as federal courts must respect that right. The court held that it was consistent with the Constitution to require state courts to appoint attorneys for defendants who could not afford to retain counsel on their own. Justice Black stated that reason and reflection require us to recognize that in our adversary system of criminal justice, any person hailed into court who is too poor to hire a lawyer cannot be assured a fair trial unless counsel is provided for him. All states would be required to provide counsel in criminal cases. After this ruling, Gideon was then tried again in the court that convicted him, now with a court-appointed lawyer, and was acquitted.
Created using Powtoon.